Well, good morning. How is everyone? It's 11 o'clock, so it's me checking in with you. I hope we're connected everywhere and everybody can see me and hear me. I don't seem to be fully connected on Instagram yet. But hopefully I am. Let me try it again. Don't seem to be, but maybe somebody will tell me what's going on. Well, I have a lot to talk to you guys about today. We're getting into some really important times, and so I really want to share some things with you that I want you to be concerned about, that I am concerned about. So let me just jump into this. I think it's pretty clear at this point that the models that we've all been looking at have been pretty pessimistic. They've been way off. You've been hearing me say this for a long, long time. As I was talking about yesterday, the original models for this coronavirus were that we were going to be looking at 1 million lives lost, that we were going to be, then they downgraded it, said we were going to be looking at 250,000 lives lost from the coronavirus. Happily, very happily, those models were pessimistic. And what I'm saying at this point is the good thing about passage of time is you can stop speculating and you can start measuring, because it's time to stop modeling and start measuring. Coming up with these models, I understand that's a good theoretical thing to do. I get that you need to do that and they have to be based on assumptions, but the more data you get, the less assumptions you have to make. And the fact of the matter is, we're at a point, and I want people to hear this, and I want you to write your congressmen, I want you to write your senators, I want you to write your mayors and your governors in your towns and start raising this issue, because we are at a point that we have to start recognizing that staying in isolation, shutting down our economy, is going to cost as many or more lives than the virus. Okay? There's no question about that. We absolutely have to recognize that that's the case. And so I'm just very concerned that we have to start paying attention to that situation and that circumstance, because we have to start re-entering what we're doing. We have to start re-entering we have to start re-entering our lives here and we have to start re-entering our lives and getting back to we have to start re-entering our lives and getting back to some semblance of we have to start re-entering our lives and getting back to some semblance of normalcy with what's going on. We cannot stay forever. We cannot stay forever in lockdown. I understand that that's concerning. I understand that there's no guarantee that we're going to be okay when we start getting back out into our jobs, into our world, into our lives. I get that. But there's a point at which staying in lockdown because of anxiety, depression, loneliness, PTSD, all of those things will take more lives than the virus will take if we get back out there. You cannot ignore the impact of a crashing economy, poverty, putting people in isolation and creating all of those social emotional disorders, neglecting other needed healthcare procedures. There are people that are not going to the hospital and getting cancer treatments, getting needed operations for other issues that cause them We always know early intervention is the key, and these things are getting ignored because of the coronavirus, and we're getting ready to see a second level of layoffs here. At first, we had layoffs for people that were in the service industry, working for airlines and at movie theaters and places like that. Now we're getting ready to see a second line of layoffs that goes much, much deeper to the point that we're going to have the highest level of unemployment since World War II. This is going to cause people to really be in a problem economically. The presence of the virus causes a loss of life. The absence of livelihood, the sustainable income, also causes the loss of life. 250,000 people a year in America die due to poverty. That's from starvation, lack of medical care, living outside in the elements. People die from these things, and that's before the pandemic hit and the economy crashed. So we have to start paying a lot of attention to that. There's going to be a very significant loss of life if we continue this economic shutdown indefinitely. The virus is only half of the equation. And I'm not saying that it should be trivialized. I've told you from the very beginning that I am 100%, I am 100% compliant with CDC guidelines. We're living in social isolation. We're maintaining distancing. We're doing all of the things that need to be done. So I want that to happen, no question about it. We need to do that, but there's a point at which we have to transition back in. We currently have 16.8 million people that have filed for unemployment. A quarter of the workforce in Michigan is unemployed. That doesn't work. And the only way we're ever going to get this right is if we get diagnostic testing, antibody testing, and contact tracing once we get back out there. And so there's just no way we can continue to do this. Now, I don't know how we do that, because right now we don't have the testing. And I think it is absolutely absurd that America doesn't have the testing. That needs to be the number one priority. There should be millions of antibody tests out there right now. Millions of antibody tests out there right now. And the estimate is they can do maybe 60,000 a week. Are you kidding me? 60,000 a week. That is criminally negligent that we as a country cannot test our people to see who has had this virus and therefore is immune from it. You should be irate over that, and you should be telling people that. Because if people have the test and determine that they have the antibodies, those antibodies can be used to treat those that have the disease and need the help, and those people with the antibodies that have some immunity can be out running the country. Now, we don't know how long the immunity lasts. We get reports out of China that says some people are getting it a second time. I don't trust China. I don't trust what they're saying. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I don't think anybody disagrees that they hid the ball early on. If they hadn't hid the ball early on, we wouldn't be in the situation we're in right now. But they did, so we are. And I think that's one of the reasons that we're in the situation that we're in. So I hope you will start making plans for this to end, and I hope you will start making noise for this to end, because it should end sooner rather than later. We can't stay in this situation indefinitely. We have to start making a different plan for getting this world open back up. Do I want to just say, the hell with people, let them get sick, let's have another big wave of this? Of course not. But there is a tipping point. There's a point at which you're going to lose more lives from non-virus elements than you are from the virus itself. And we have to start recognizing that. Now, 2,100 cities in America right now are facing huge budget shortfalls, thousands of layoffs, fewer police officers on the street. And yet they say we're years away from antibody tests that are broadly enough available for us to really know what I'm saying we need to know. That can't be okay. there needs to be a shuffling of the priorities. Um, and so far, less than 1% of the American population has been tested. Less than 1%. Are you kidding me? I am just, I've been studying this nonstop. I mean, around the clock now for over 2 months. And I'm looking for something to explain why we, as the leading power on the globe, are this far behind. Hell, Korea is doing a better job than we're doing. Why? I don't understand that. Somebody needs to explain that to me. I, I, I just don't get it. I just don't get it. So I hope you're getting as upset about this as I am, because it means you will start making noise. You will start writing your mayor. You will start writing your governor. You will start writing your senator and your representative and telling them, look, people, come up with a plan here. We have got to get this economy back open and protect ourselves at the same time. And those are not mutually exclusive. There comes a point where you have to realize that we have to have a balance between protecting human life from the virus and from all the things that are neglected because of the virus. So we have to do both things. And I am clearly irate about this. I've gotten a lot of questions that relate to this. Cindy Bastine Wisdom said, I need to know how to react to people telling me I'm overreacting because I won't let anyone in my house unless they have been quarantined for 2 weeks. I'm at risk. If I should get sick with this virus, I will most likely die. So I'm tired of being chastised about my decision. Listen, Cindy, if you're in a situation where you have underlying conditions, and the fact is, if you get this virus, that you're high risk for death, why would you care what somebody else thinks? I guarantee you, if you get sick and your life is at risk, you won't be able to find those people with both hands. To hell with them. Don't worry about being chastised. Protect your life. If you need to be in quarantine, if you need to keep people out, keep them out. And if they don't understand, then let them worry about that. Do what you have to do to take care of you. That's all I can tell you. Do what you have to do to take care of you. And if they're chastising you, then let them chastise you. What do you care? Tell them to watch this, and I'll tell them, mind your own business. She knows what she's doing. It's her life, not yours. Where are you going to be if she dies? People call you up and say, are you the one that got inside her house and infected her? I don't think you want to be that person. Clover Chinwith Helmke said, I'm a hairstylist and I'm a little worried about returning to work as soon as this is over, as far as the quarantine goes, because I will be so close in proximity to my clients and I'm worried. Well, look, if you're worried, then you need to take precautions. Look, we're not going to just go back out there all of a sudden and say, this is over, so that's been a political decision, so that means the virus has died off. No, take precautions once you go back out there. If you need to wear a mask at work, if you need to wear gloves at work, if you need to work in a situation where you can maintain some social distancing when you can, and if you have to be close to clients, then you need to ask them, wear a mask. I'll wear a mask. Let's wear gloves. Let's do what we have to do. We're going to have a new normal, and that's okay. I'm saying we need to open the country up as soon as medically feasible to do so. And that may mean that we have to take some interval steps to do it. We're not just going to all go jump back out there and start blowing kisses at each other. We're going to have to do things to transition back into this until this dies out, until we have a vaccine, until we know who has antibodies and who doesn't. Until that time, there are steps we can take: wearing masks, wearing gloves, washing our hands, doing the things we need to that we didn't do 6 months ago, but we can do them now. Rewa Cap says, public transport will be a fear for many when our lives get back to some sort of normal. Yes, you're right. And we need to rely on public transport in order to get where we're going. And in order to do that, the city, the county, the state needs to come in and disinfect those things on a daily basis. And then you need to do what you need to do to protect yourself when you're there. You need to get on and wear gloves. You need to get on and wear a mask. You need to do things so you are in a cocoon while you're on those public transports until such a time as you are comfortable that they are being disinfected and that this virus has died out. Is this going to come back next year? Experts are telling us yes, it probably is going to come back next year, and we need to be prepared for that. So that means we're going to be doing some different things from now until then, and hopefully a vaccine is going to come, and we'll get a flu shot just like we did before, but it'll be for a coronavirus shot that will be mixed in with it so we aren't so susceptible to this. Diane Fortune says, do you think it's going to be necessary to wear gloves or masks when they give the all clear? Absolutely. I think depending on where you work and what you do and who you're around, that's going to be a requirement. It's going to be something that will give you an extra level of protection. And so if you do, so what? That's just something you adapt to and do. If it allows you to get back out there, provide for your family, earn a living, keep yourself safe, then do it. And I think also there are going to be some other measures where people take their temperature before they walk into the workplace. We have one of these little electronic things you stick in your ear and it takes your temperature in like 1 second. And Robin and I do it twice a day. We take our temperature twice a day. I mean, there's no one for us to get it from. I mean, we're in isolation, but we do it twice a day. And now, can people be contagious before they have a temperature? Yes, they can be contagious before they have a temperature. But you can certainly screen out those that do have a temperature. So you're going to be wearing masks. You might be wearing gloves. You might be checking temperatures before they come in. There are places now that do it thermally, where you just walk in and they screen thermally. They have a threshold, and anybody above it, they show up on the screen. So there may be technology that does that for us. Maheva Kovalenko says, is it normal to have palpation and panic attacks through this? It's typical. I wouldn't say that it's normal, but it is understandable. Look, we're in a state of arousal here. I mean, what could you possibly be afraid of? Well, a virus that you could contract and it could make you very sick. If you are one of those people that is particularly susceptible, it could actually take your life. Your economy is crashing around you. You may have lost your job. You may be at risk of losing your dwelling, whether it's an apartment or a house that you have a mortgage on. You have elderly parents that could catch this and really be in a high risk category. There are a lot of things right now that are unknowns. And so does that create anxiety? Yes. Does that sometimes ramp up to a panic attack? Yes. It can, and it does. And that's why I say we need to stop ignoring the psychological fallout from this and start dealing with it. Karen Abreu says, the average age of death in the U.S., what's the average age of death in the U.S. Caused by the virus? Look, right now they're still compiling that data, but let me tell you, it is much more, it's a much higher rate the older you go. As you move up from 40s to 50s, it doubles. From 50s to 60, it doubles. From 60 to 70s and 80s, it just keeps doubling on up because we're less equipped to fight it off. I saw some statistics just a few days ago that the average age of the person that died from the virus in Italy was 79 and a half years old. Now, that's an average, and there were younger people that died. So that means that there were a lot of people in their 80s in Italy that died. But the average was 79.5, and you were having to average in a few younger people that died. There have been people that passed away that were infants. There have been some children. There have been some teens and 20s. But the vast majority are those in their late 60s, 70, and above. So it is the more elderly, and among those, it are those that have underlying medical conditions such as COPD, some type of other lung disease or disorder, diabetes, congestive heart failure. things of that nature. So it's basically those people that are advanced in age and they're more susceptible, or someone that has a suppressed immune system. And by the way, anxiety, depression, these panic attacks that one of the people were asking about, those are the kinds of things that suppress the immune system. And by the way, being lonely suppresses the immune system because our body thinks if we're not around anybody, then there's nothing to catch, apparently. And so the immune system goes quiet because there's nothing to fight off because there's nobody around to transmit anything. So it's just built into the body that the immune system is suppressed. So loneliness actually makes us more susceptible to contracting an infection. Um, so again, that's why we need to get out of this isolation responsibly as fast as we can. And as I said, when I'm talking about doing this responsibly, we need diagnostic testing to see who has this. We need antibody testing to see who is over it and hopefully immune. That means if you're immune, you can't catch it, nor can you give it. Those people can be out there. They can be running the world. And I promise you, there are millions of them. You know, right now, we talk about how many people in America have contracted this. And when you look at it worldwide, you've got 1.9 million, almost 2 million cases have been contracted, and about 125,000 deaths. If you look at it in the U.S., we've got 603,000 cases contracted and 25,000 deaths. So we know that this is widespread and it's a problem, clearly. But we also know that it's topping out right now. It seems to be. And based on that, if we can track where the hot spots are and can focus on those and avoid those areas, then we can start working in areas. The entire country shut down, but yet there are states that have, well, if you take New York and New Jersey and add the number of cases they have and the number of deaths they have, you have to go through 20 more states combined before you equal the amount of cases and deaths that those two states have, because they're very concentrated. And I think New York and New Jersey are doing a terrific job of managing this. Governor Cuomo, I think, has just been a terrific leader in all of this, but they're very congested there. But we're having the same lockdown in Wyoming that we have in New York, Idaho that we have in New York, Montana, where it's not nearly as intense. Montana has a total of 7 deaths during this entire time. But yet if they have the same lockdown that you have in New York, it seems disproportionate. And I don't know exactly what their lockdown situation is, but I know they have much less in terms of death. Wyoming has 1 death reported. South Dakota has 6. So there are parts of the country that are not hot spots for this and can adjust. So I know I seem strident about this, but I just think it's time that we start doing some things. And, you know, with the schools being out, I worry that kids are not, I really worry that kids are not getting the food that they need to get. That bothers me a lot. Now, on today's show, we're talking about some of what's happening in this pandemic. The title of the show is Branded and Scorned, because some people that contract this virus are getting really judged for it. I talked to a girl named Claire, a woman named Claire, 21-year-old. She's a musical theater student in New York. She tested positive for coronavirus last month, and she did what she should do. She called everybody she'd been in contact with and said, "Hey, I came down with this virus. I just want to let you know." And she expected people to go, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Thanks for telling me so I can pay attention." That's not what she got. She got accusations. "Well, what do you mean you got it? Let me see your medical records. I want to know what's going on with you. Why is that?" They demanded they branded her. She was just really criticized like she had done something wrong. I'm sure it was a fear response on people's part, but she was stunned that she was attacked when she told people that she had had the virus. She had been to a party. This was before any kind of restriction. She had been to a party and she'd been around like 30 people. By the way, not one of the 30 people have contracted the virus that she was around, but they all got really aggressive with her, demanded to see her medical records. Some of their parents from the school demanded to see her medical records, and she didn't allow that to happen. I talked to a woman named Valerie. She's 45. She's a very accomplished TV executive here in Los Angeles, and she's Asian American. She was on the street, and people call this the China virus, and she was actually attacked by a homeless man as she walked her dog. He started punching at her, kicking her, trying to kick her dog, and she ran back in the building. And she wasn't so angry with him as she was herself. She said, I feel shame and humiliation that I ran from it. And I'm telling her, look, your best defense ever when you're being attacked, your best defense is to get away from the attacker. That's not the time you want to bow up and fight right there. Get away, call the police, call for help. That's a hate crime. You don't want to make your stand right there and fight. That's not the thing to do. Now, you guys know I have a podcast, and I spent this week's podcast talking to some teachers about how to help all of you do homeschooling more effective, how to make it less obtrusive to your life and maximize the effects of it. So there were some really good tips from those teachers. That's on Fill in the Blanks. You can find that. And one of the things that I was most concerned about are kids that get their food from school. Like in LA, for example, 2/3 of our LA United School District are below the poverty line. They rely on those meals at school. And that's, again, one of the reasons I think we need to get this behind us responsibly, but get it behind us. And I want to do a shameless plug here. You guys know I always support Feeding America. This is a box from Omaha Steaks, and this is a box from Omaha Steaks. And by the way, this is not a paid endorsement. They're not paying me a penny to talk about this. Robin and I have just used Omaha Steaks for a long, long time, and we really started using them more and more now because we don't want to go to the grocery store. We don't have to. So we order Omaha Steaks and have them delivered to the door, and they're really great. These are their hot dogs. They're really good. Let me tell you, they're really good. But the reason I'm giving Omaha Steaks a shameless plug here, and again, I'm not being paid to do this. They don't give me a penny. But they have partnered with Feeding America to help them provide meals for millions of families that are in need. And they've donated 100,000 servings of protein. Now, let me tell you why that's important. There are 200 food banks associated with Feeding America, and less than 3/4 of a pound annually of meat, chicken, or seafood are provided to each person who visits a member food bank. So that's annually, 3/4 of a pound. So when Omaha Steaks gives 100,000 servings of protein, that's huge. And customers are able to purchase specifically curated Omaha Steaks and Feeding America packages that include a donation to Feeding America online. You can do it online, or you can call 1-800-960-8400. 1-800-960-8400. I'll put a link to that up on drphil.com so you can see it. And customers can also make a donation straight to Feeding America at more than 50 of Omaha Steaks stores around the country. Think about these kids. A lot of them are getting the meals delivered to their homes, but a lot of them aren't. And these food banks are running dry. They're just going empty because people are lined up for miles to get food from these food banks. We need to support them. And that's why I'm doing a shameless plug for Omaha Steaks, because they do so much to support these food banks. So keeps you from going to the store, and it's really good stuff, I'll promise you. So anyway, it's good stuff, and Feeding America does a really good job. So hopefully you'll support Omaha Steaks and Feeding America. And let me tell you, they get 8 meals out of every dollar. 8 meals out of every dollar. So even if you just give a little bit to Feeding America, it has a big impact. 8 meals out of every dollar. Okay, I got to get going because I'm going to do a show here today, and that I'm taping that will air very soon. And I'm going to keep talking about getting us back out there. I don't want to be reckless, but I also recognize we're going to lose a lot of lives if we don't get back out there from stress, anxiety, depression, loneliness, just simply people not having enough money to live. We got to turn this country back on and do it in a responsible way. All right, we'll see you next time. Thanks.